I'm running to be the first student on the Boise School Board, which you probably all know that because you're here. But I really do believe that student voice is powerful, and it's not just my voice, it's the voices of all of us. And having a student on the school board is not something that's new. That's something we do all across the country. 14% of school districts have student members on the board. Most of the time there's a reserved student seat for school board. Sometimes students have run, just like I'm doing. Without that student voice, we're missing a critical perspective, right, on what's going on, boots on the ground in our classrooms. There was a lot that we can bring to the table as students, as youth, like mental health. I see that every day in my schools, and the pandemic exacerbated, but even before the pandemic, we were not adequately addressing mental health. 10% of Idaho youth have acted on suicidal threats. 13% of Latino youth. Something like 50% of transgender or gender non-conforming youth. And that is a problem, right? That's something we're not addressing. And that's acting on suicidal thoughts. So it's not even to mention, students that are facing mental health issues every day, depression, missing school because of that. So if we want, student-centered education, we have to act on mental health. That's a big thing for me. And you can read on my phone cards. We got to get more school counselors. We got to make sure that teachers know how to bring mental health into the classroom, make it, a centerpiece conversation, destigmatize that conversation, because really it is dang hard to talk about mental health, especially in an atmosphere that's that school is like. I'm sure y'all remember it. And we need to build that inclusive environment where students feel safe to express themselves. This is the groundwork that's been laid by teachers and students for decades. And we just don't have that administrative backup for that. Teachers just never stop empowering me in their classrooms, telling me that my voice matters, asking me my thoughts. And my fellow students also are all about how can we make our school community feel more inclusive, everyone feels safe and welcome at school. And now we just need that from the top, right? And it's hard, right? The school district's a bureaucracy, but that's why we need a strong body accountable to the taxpayers, accountable to students to make that happen. One thing that really highlighted the need for a student school board member in the Boise School District was we were all working for a clean energy commitment and long-term sustainability plan for our schools. Because yes, that's the right thing to do for our students. Yes, it will improve health in our school district. It is our duty to fight climate change in the United States. It's our duty to align with what the city of Boise is doing. But really, because it will save a ton of money. And that we need, I think y'all know, in Idaho schools. Energy is our second largest expenditure. We spend millions of dollars, I think $12 million every year on energy, electricity, heating, that kind of stuff in our schools. And we don't have a long-term plan. How are we gonna take care of that? And so that's what we were working for. And we know that it'll save about 50% of our energy budget if we do it right. And I remember we had students from every high school, so Bora, Capital, Timberline, Boise, and actually Frank Church as well. We went for 2 years asking for meetings with our school board members, and we did get a lot of meetings with district staff, Idaho Power, teachers were super excited, parents, but our school board just would not come to the table. And I have a lot of respect for our school board and what they do, and I think it has been very challenging for them. But students are the primary stakeholder in our education. So when student groups, 300 students write you a postcard saying, hey, all we want is a meeting, you should probably meet with those students. So I sent a letter to our school board president, great guy, asking for that meeting. And I never got a response. But I know he got the letter because about a week later I got called in the principal's office. Hey, you can't reach out to your school board members, you need to talk to me. And it was a respectful letter. I can show you the letter. It was like, hey, dear sir, So that's not a personal issue. That's not an issue with the individuals on the school board. That's not an issue with my principal, my teachers, anyone specifically in the school board, in the school district. But that is an issue with culture, right? There is a culture that says, hey, student voice actually doesn't belong in educational decision making, and that is wrong. We know that's wrong, and everyone who's here, you all know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. But that's when I knew, that we need student representation on the school board. I have a friend, Lizzie Dukmo. Have y'all heard of her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lizzie ran or applied for an appointed position on the school board back in November. And she didn't end up getting an interview, but she was the first student, I think, to apply for that appointed position, from what I understand. I think she, in large part, laid the groundwork for this campaign. But I think the fact that she didn't get an interview, speaks volumes about where the priorities lie. So I'm running for school board. I'm running to solve the mental health crisis, provide more mental health resources, or at least alleviate the mental health crisis in our schools. I'm running to support our teachers against attacks of extremism. I remember going into English class and we had assignments that were blacked out, that read like a CIA document. And it was like, why are our teachers, who were not violating the law in these assignments, right? Why were they so intimidated that they thought they had to cross out parts of this assignment that they had taught years prior? And that's because our district leaders were not standing up to the extremists in our state government. I'm running to write a long-term sustainability plan for our school district. I'm running to move to later school start times, science-based approach. But really I'm running to bring student voice to school government and school decision making and show that students can bring a lot to the table when we have a seat. So I'm going to have a seat and y'all can ask me some questions. But before I do that, I want to plug 3 things. First of all, yard signs. Many of you have them. Thank you if you have them. Woo! But we just ordered more, so we've got a ton. Please take one before you go if you don't have one. If you live in the Boise School District. They advertise the election day, which is September 6th. If you haven't requested your absentee ballot, I recommend you do that because that's the day after Labor Day. You can do that at votebsd.org. It's the URL we bought.
Yeah.
We bought the URL. Yeah. Secondly, we are doing some volunteering all next week, all through September 6th. So if you're on the email list, you'll receive some volunteering notifications, but we really appreciate that volunteer support as we really get out the word about this election. This election is, Sam was talking about the value of local elections. This election is winnable. Last time there was a school board election, they won with 3,600 votes. Wow. So 3,600 votes. So less than 8,000 people voted in that school board race that year.